Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the media, to my colleagues and fellow Jamaicans, to those who have joined us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Thank you for joining us at the People's National Party. Today, we gather not only as representatives of the People's National Party, but as Jamaicans, as Jamaican women who refuse to accept the normalization of violence against women in this country. We refuse to accept the erosion of integrity and the blatant disregard for the principles of accountability. The reinstatement of George Wright to the Jamaica Labour Party is not just an insult to women of this country. It is a declaration by the Jamaica Labour Party that politics matters more than justice and morality. It is a betrayal of every woman who has suffered in silence, to every survivor who was told that their pain doesn't matter, and to every little girl who is watching and learning what our country, what our government is willing to tolerate in the name of politics. The JLP didn't truly dismiss George Wright. They distanced themselves just long enough to weather the storm, only to now welcome him back as though he has been washed whiter than snow. We will not forget. So when the women, particularly of the Jamaica Labour Party, visit you at home in the coming months to ask you to vote for them and to vote for this signal, this declaration they have made, stand up, Jamaica. Respond to the silence they have given you with your vote. When Juliet Cuthbert Flynn, Dr. Michelle Charles, Tamika Davis, Anne-Marie Vaz, Favor Williams, Crystal Lee, Olivia Babsy Grange, Marlene Malahoo Fort, Tova Hamilton, Marissa Dalrymple Filbert, Senator Kamina Johnson Smith, Senator Dr. Dana Morris Dixon, Senator Dr. Safar Longmore, Senator Shireen Golding Campbell, and Miss Rhoda Moy Crawford and Juliet Holness come to ask you for your vote. Remind them that they were silent when George Wright was welcomed back to the fold of the Jamaica Labour Party to represent you. Today, Miss Patricia Duncan Sutherland, president of the People's National Party's Women's Movement, Dr. Angela Brown Burke, our chairwoman and spokesperson on foreign affairs and trade, Miss Denise Daly, spokesperson on gender affairs, and Senator Gabriella Morris, our president of the PNP's youth organization, they're not going to be silent. They're saying to you that we will fight for you. We're also fighting for the woman that was beaten by George Wright with a chair. You see what you did do? It can't rub out. We invite Miss Patricia Duncan Sutherland to address you.
I'm Patricia Duncan Sutherland, president of the PNP Women's Movement and spokesperson on social transformation and protection. And today, I chose to wear black because it is a sad period for Jamaica. It is a sad time for Jamaica. I stand here today representing the 30% of Jamaican women who have experienced domestic violence. I stand here today representing every well-thinking Jamaica. It is outrageous that we should choose to normalize violence against women in Jamaica, in whatever shape or form, by accepting that this should be swept under the carpet. We are not here saying that there is no possibility for redemption, but redemption must come with first acknowledging what is wrong and doing something specific and clear to fix it. In April 2021, when this video came out, and the country was outraged, women were outraged, men were outraged, Dr. Chang, in asking or in agreeing with George Wright that he should step down, said that they are asking him to step down and to step away from the government caucus because of the unresolved allegations circulated in the public domain. These allegations remained unresolved. George Wright has not denied that he was the man in the video. And if they are to say that mitigating circumstances are the reason why they are accepting that he should once again be a part of the Jamaica Labour Party and the government caucus, then they need to tell the public what those mitigating circumstances are. And it needs to be more than just telling. He needs to show and to clearly say that this act is not a good act. It's a wrong act. And that there is something that he has done to get counseling and that will change it. I want everybody to note that the 30% of Jamaican women who experience domestic violence some of them are married. So marrying the person that you abuse does not stop the abuse from occurring. It just means that the abused, is in a situation that is even more devastating because they get into a deeper trap of abuse. And I want to say that domestic violence and abuse occurs in many ways, not just physical. There is financial abuse, there is physical abuse, and there is mental abuse. The act of this government of bringing back George Wright and saying that they are going to put him forward again as a candidate for Member of Parliament in the next election is psychological and emotional abuse on every woman that has experienced domestic violence in this country. Because it tells them that Jamaica will accept domestic violence as a normal part of life. We, the People's National Party, the women's movement, and all of the women standing here and the men of the People's National Party say no to violence against women. It must stop. And if we are going to make sure that it stops, we have to show that through our leadership. And our leadership must take a stance against it. You cannot have a public display of violence being left without any kind of action or consequence. Otherwise, it will continue. We will stop violence against women in Jamaica, but it can only happen if we have a clear resolve to cause it to happen. Thank you.
This morning, I am wearing purple, since that is the color that we use to represent our distaste and rejection of gender-based violence. So, yes, today we are going to be talking about the JLP's deception, the big lie in presenting George Wright as an independent member of Parliament while he was clearly supporting their agenda. We said in Parliament over and over again, because we were very clear, that he never acted in any way to support this claim of independence. This was a farce promoted by every JLP member sitting in Parliament. This was a shame that was perpetrated by a Parliament with the largest number of women in our history, making that an even deeper shame. When we on the opposition benches dared to express our disgust, some wanted to pretend that it was partisanship and that we didn't have the evidence. But I know that you, like me, saw that video, and it is an image I have not been able to get out of my mind of a man with a stool just licking and licking and licking. Not the wall, but flesh and blood, a woman. And as we discuss this, I want you to remember that, because somebody has to stand up for our women. The truth, though, is that although it took many of us by surprise, it should not have. It should not have, because the JLP has maintained a poor pattern of accountability and integrity. Remember the undated letters of resignation, which were ruled unconstitutional. Remember the fight we had with NIDS and SOE, having to take those to court to ensure that the rights of Jamaicans were protected. We remember ministers abusing their powers. Some of those cases are even now still pending. And I guess we have a government who wants us, through the passage of time, to forget these things. This is a government that we have seen depending on their bully pulpit to keep citizens in line and to keep those of us who oppose their actions in line. Well, it not gonna work. The Prime Minister himself said he knows when to turn it up and when to turn it down. What that means is that him take the whole away the idiot. So all he has to do is to turn it up or down and determine what our reaction will be. We can't allow that to remain, because this move of bringing George Wright as a current member of Parliament for the Jamaica Labour Party after 4 years of silence is a slap in the face of all women and girls. It is another punch to the gut for every survivor of domestic violence, and in particular, those who are survivors of intimate partner violence. It is a devastating blow to our young girls who are hoping that they won't become part of the statistics of that 30% of women in Jamaica, yes, who experience gender-based violence. And it certainly doesn't help those men who are embarrassed when we talk about the statistics, that 1 in almost 3, basically 3 women, have experienced physical violence by a male partner. It doesn't help. And you know what is worse? What is worse is that this also does nothing to encourage reporting violence against women and girls to formal channels. And bear in mind that this is a country where 63% of those individuals who experience this kind of violence never report it. An MP sitting in Parliament for 4 years, pretending that he did nothing wrong, with his members supporting him time and time again, as if they too don't know that he did something wrong. In fact, what has he said now? I think he has outgrown it, and therefore he has turned a new leaf. That's not enough. Where is the public apology? Where is the admission of guilt and wrong? Where is the remorse? I don't know. Some persons say, well, maybe mitigating circumstances mean that he has done therapy and he has done this and he has done that. But if that is so, it seems to me that the JLP are getting ready for a dog and pony show. So they admit him as a member. They say there are mitigating circumstances. And then, as we have the discussion, they will lift the veil to show what has happened. This is not dog and pony show time. This is bigger than politics. This is about protecting the values of decency, accountability, and respect for all women. And this is a serious concern in Jamaica because although many don't report to formal channels, 44% of these women talk to a friend or to a care provider. And what does that mean? That 44%, almost a half of Jamaicans know the problem that we're in, the crisis that we face. And the question, therefore, is what are we going to do about it? Well, do I remember that in 2021, Mr. Mark Golding, at the time of this national disgrace, submitted a motion that would have allowed for a discussion in Parliament around a code of conduct that would clearly outline acceptable standards and behavior for parliamentarians, and at the very least would have had a conversation both in Parliament and nationally about what is expected. 4 years later, and not a word has been said about that motion that's before Parliament. And, honestly, the PNP has shown by that motion moved by Mr. Golding that we are serious about it. Not just talking, but we want to do something about it. And in particular, we want to hold parliamentarians as leaders to lead by example. And so I'm saying to you today that the PNP will continue to fight for a Jamaica where women are respected, where they feel safe, and where they are heard. And in doing that, we are also calling on all Jamaicans, men and women, to stand resolutely against any hypocrisy and doublespeak when it comes to gender-based violence or intimate partner violence. We are asking you to demand higher standards from all your leaders, and in particular, those of us who represent you in Parliament. I was listening again to some things that the party leader said not so long ago. And one of the things that remain with me is when he said that domestic violence is fueled by a lack of moral norms and behavioral standards. That is something for us to think about. Who are the persons we are electing as leaders? We used to say that leaders lead by example. Is this the example that you would like your boys to grow up thinking that this is normal? That your girls will grow up thinking that this is normal? It is time to end the normalization of the violence against our women and girls. I am hoping that as a patriotic Jamaican, you too will stand with us.
Today, I will start by recognizing when we first opened our parliament in 2020, the Prime Minister bragged about they are the most women representing in Parliament. And today, I am saddened to know that in a time when they are increasing their numbers of women in Parliament, he is now looking at domestic violence as the norm. Why do I say that? When George Wright started out, he started out as a Jamaica Labour Party member of Parliament. When the incident, he decided that he was going to be independent. Nothing about him was independent. But the fact that he was on record to be independent, I had to accept that fact. I have watched him over there, sitting over our side, with no remorse. He felt comfortable because he knew that the time would come for him to go back and join the Jamaica Labour Party. A few days ago, when I saw that rally and I heard the MC saying, he is needed he is important to the Jamaica Labour Party. I was in awe. Now, the term has not been finished, so we still have some time leave. George Wright is going to take back his rightful seat among the Jamaica Labour Party, I would imagine. And we have a lot of things to discuss in terms of women's rights and the way forward. The minister, in which I have not heard anything from, Minister of Gender Affairs, how is it that she will be able to answer in the ruling government seat about violence against women when you beside you or behind you is one of the perpetrators? It is a shame and a disgrace upon women. I feel so ashamed. Why do I feel so ashamed? I'm ashamed because we have worked tirelessly on the laws so that Jamaican women more so would be more protected against domestic violence. And we have just passed the laws, and there is even no public education as yet to educate our nation about how they should behave, especially our males. And today I am standing because the Jamaica Labour Party has gone back on their word about protecting women's rights. I know that Jamaicans are not foolish. You cannot give them a 6 for a 9. I know that they understand that the People's National Party has always believed in women. That is one of the reasons why we had chosen our leader, one of our prime minister, the only female prime minister that have served us so far, Portia Simpson Miller, because we believe in women rights and women justice. Today, I stand here to condemn the Jamaica Labour Party and to say to them, find something in you to be shameful about. And if you can't find any other thing, use this one in reinstalling George Wright as a member of the Jamaica Labour Party as shameful and disgraceful. You cannot fool Jamaican people. They have been fooled by you many, many times. And this time around, they will make the right decision because they understand that you are going a little too far. Our women and girls are now wondering who should they run to. If the legislators are some of the perpetrators, then who should they turn to? And I'm just appealing to them that we have upstanding women in leadership that you can go to. You have a party that believes in what they say. And I want to implore you not to get discouraged. Just remember that the People's National Party have a clear policy how we treat women and girls in this country. I want to just say to George Wright, you were seen on a video. And I know you're not having a shaggy moment to say, it was me. You should come out to the Jamaican people before you take your seat on the government side and publicly apologize for the act. And also to tell us why we think you should go back over there and why you should be able to continue to become a legislator. On behalf of all the women of Jamaica and girls, I want to say to you today, rest assured that when the People's National Party comes to government, we will make sure we do not play lip service. We will make sure that you're safe and protected.
Good morning, everyone. Today I stand here as a woman, not just a senator, not just president of the PNPYO, but as a woman who believes that we can't be silent in the face of this injustice. Because make no mistake, Jamaica, what we have been witnessing with the resurgence of George Wright is an injustice. And it signals political audacity and brazenness on the part of this government. It is a display of power over principle, of politics over morality, and of silence over accountability. A young woman was silenced, whether she chose to, because I just saw the system set, or perhaps because she was forced to save face for her abuser. We all saw the video. We were all disturbed by the video. We saw how he relentlessly pursued her with a chair and inflicted bodily harm. She suffered, while the man accused of abusing her was allowed to go back to business as usual. His career was protected, his political future secured, while she is in the shadow. That is what the Jamaica Labour Party has chosen to celebrate and to defend. But I want to ask the question this morning, what message does this action send to young women across our country? That their pain does not matter, that their voices don't count, that their safety is secondary to political power. And let me say this loud and clear this morning to every young woman, every woman who is listening. Abuse is wrong. It is not normal. We should not seek to treat it as normal, and we should not condone it. Especially persons who are chosen to make laws and to lead this country. It is not something that you should tolerate, excuse, or endure in silence. And remember that this government or any leader who tells you otherwise by their words or by their actions is not fit to lead. Our women deserve to live in a country where they are protected, not told to be quiet in the aftermath of abuse, where they are respected and protected, where they can stand up and speak their truth without fear of being cast aside while their abuser walks free and acts like he did nothing wrong. And young people, men and women alike, deserve leaders with integrity. Leaders who understand that leadership is not about protecting political power at all cost, but leaders who set an example of responsibility and decency. But what the JLP has chosen to do here, it has set a dangerous precedent and has told a damaging lesson that power can silence accountability. That if you have the right connections, you can escape justice. That the voices of women, of survivors, of young people don't matter. Well, let me tell you something. We will not be silenced. The PNP Youth Organization, we stand firmly on this matter. And we're standing because we believe in justice, in truth, in accountability, and in a safer Jamaica for young women, for women, and our youth. We believe in a Jamaica where leadership is built on integrity, not acting with impunity, where young people can look to their leaders and see role models, not men who believe that they can do anything and everything that they want without any consequences. We stand here this morning to reaffirm that we do not and we will not accept this. We cannot allow it to continue. Because this decision here is not about one man or one decision. This is about the kind of country that we want to live in. And so we are firm in our belief, and we will not join the JLP in being complicit. Their public embrace of George Wright is low, it is desperate, and it is disgusting. When we applaud abusive actions and abusers, we are being complicit in building a society with no morals, no values, and no future. And I want to put the question squarely in front of the Jamaican people. Is that the kind of government that you want? A government that tells your children, your nieces, your mothers, your aunts, that they should be beaten and stay silent while their abuser parades in party colors and makes appearance and big speeches. This is not what we want. This is not what Jamaica deserves. And we will not stop until George Wright is out of Gordon House, where he should never have been allowed to return to in the first place. Thank you.
By raising your hand if you have a question for the panelists. And if you're online, please indicate if you have a question by using the raise hand icon or writing your question and submitting it, and we will present it for you. Before you ask your question, please state your name, your media house, and proceed. For Miss Patricia Duncan Sutherland, it says that we're aware that the PNP had drafted an impeachment bill some 2 years ago. But what specific measures does the PNP propose to ensure that individuals with a history of violence are held accountable and prevented from holding public office again?
Well, there are two things that I would want to, and thanks for the question. There are two things that I would want to address with respect to that, especially in this case. We need to look at introducing evidence-based prosecution, because when we do that, then there will be no possibility, it will be less likely that a situation like this would be left hanging and unresolved, because the evidence was there and we could have questioned it and determined what was the situation. And with that, as you bring that to public office, the code of conduct, yes, but I'm not sure, but I believe that inside of an impeachment bill, we could put it in there that until there is a clear restoration of the offense, that this person would not be allowed to sit in Parliament. This is something that would strengthen our Integrity Act. It would strengthen our integrity in public office in Jamaica. could be applied, yes, to domestic violence, but to all other aspects of life. Because we do challenge, but the domestic violence issue and the normalization of violence is a real problem in Jamaica. And if we don't take some bold steps in our legislation, we will not be able to send a clear signal to Jamaica, right, that we are not tolerant of violence, domestic violence, intimate partner violence, or violence in any form. Bad man police can't do it. This is about the laws and about the integrity of our leaders, and that they must stand up and be held accountable for their actions.
All right. Good morning. Britannia Witter here from CVM. So just a follow-up to that, Ms. Sullivan, do you believe the readmission process, do you believe it followed the correct legal and procedural steps?
Sorry, I didn't hear.
Do you believe that the readmission process, do you believe it followed the proper legal and the procedural steps needed?
Well, does it follow the proper legal readmission into the JLP? That would be dependent on their constitution. Does it follow the correct moral steps? Does it follow the steps that would be acceptable to a country? No. Because if there's an allegation out there, and by admission of the General Secretary, he said that these allegations were unresolved in 2021. So without coming to Jamaica, because you are not just a political party, you're not a club. You are here representing people and saying that you are fit to govern and to ensure that laws are in place. And if you in 2021 have unresolved allegations and nothing has been said publicly to resolve those allegations, then on what basis are you going to readmit the person into your party and then therefore to sit on the side of the government in the parliament? It is a slap in the face for Jamaicans, a direct slap in the face to all women of Jamaica, and even more so for those who have been abused and have been had to remain silent.
This question is for Dr. Angela Brownberg.
I'm sorry. Well, let me tell you, can I just follow up with this? I think that we have to look on a couple of things. It's not just about the readmission and what happened in terms of what steps he has taken. It is also about living a lie for 4 years and sitting in Parliament. And so we also have, because that by itself is also something that should not be tolerated. You shouldn't sit for 4 years pretending you have done nothing wrong. Jump up 4 years later to say, oh, I've outgone it, or I've done this, I've done that. Here I am, whiter than snow. It doesn't work that way.
There is a question for Dr. Angela Brownberg. This says that we are aware that there's a caucus of women parliamentarians which has representation from both the opposition as well as the government, the female representatives in the House. Will the PNP be recusing itself from this as a protest to the reinstatement of George Wright?
That is something that we haven't discussed in terms of the action to take. But what I will say is this. When we first met in the caucus, that was a bone of contention. And we raised it as something that was totally unacceptable, and that the caucus, as a caucus, had to put these issues above politics. And therefore, we could not pretend that we're coming together in defense of our women while leaving something like that blatantly there. At that time, they had said that these issues were still unresolved. Now we are in front of a situation where seemingly, as far as they are concerned, it is resolved. We still believe that it is unresolved, and therefore I am sure you will be hearing from us shortly as to exactly how we will approach the caucus.
Just 2 questions. One, the Mr. Wright has said that he is not the same person. He said that in an interview with the Gleaner on the weekend. He is not the same person from the person he was at the time of the alleged, well, not the alleged incident, the incident. I wanted to get your reaction to that. One, And two, the JLP has said that he has taken some mitigating steps that caused them to readmit him into the party. What do you make of that? And what, in your mind, does mitigation in these circumstances look like or should look like?
And I'm sure all of us want to talk this, right? Because the truth of the matter is nobody's the same person they were 1 minute ago. But it's not just about not being the same person. It is about but there's an allegation there that you have not denied about an act of violence against your partner, no, your wife. You have not publicly admitted, you have not publicly stated what you have done, which would make you different with respect to this, and which would make you not choose to act in the way that you acted. Violence is a real problem. It's a real problem in Jamaica. It can't just go away because time has passed. They say time heals all, but it heals all with action. It heals all with a change of heart. It heals all with knowledge and a change of perspective that must be declared. If this action occurred publicly, these declarations and mitigating circumstances would have to be declared publicly and accepted by the public. Because it was accepted by the Jamaica Labour Party, the women of the JLP at the time spoke out against violence against women just after that act occurred. For us to accept that, we have to first weigh in on that conversation. It's not just saying, oh, I'm sorry. It's not a simple apology. It takes a lot more than that. It takes a lot more to heal and to stop committing those acts.
There's a question here for you, Miss. Oh, go, Doctor.
No, it is it's a question that I think we all have to spend some time thinking about. I go back to when the act was committed, that there was this level of silence on the part of the Jamaican Labour Party, wanting us to accept that we didn't see what we saw, that what we heard was not what we heard, and that he had nothing to do with it. He sat in the parliament for 4 years, innocent as a lamb, taking no responsibility. And then today he comes and says he's a changed person. It's simply not good enough. It is not good enough because even while he was silent, there were women in the parliament on that side who were right there with him, giving him cover and acting like it was okay. It's not the time for a dog and pony show. If he is truly changed, what we would have heard at the same time is what I did was wrong, wrong, wrong. Yes, I am so sorry for what I did. I have taken these steps and I will never be caught doing that. Yes, I have made restitution in these ways. It is not good enough to sit in private, concoct a story that you will come and tell the Jamaican people because you know when to turn it up and when to turn it down.
Thank you. I just want to say that mitigation is a process. And I don't believe marriage would be mitigation. It has to be more than that because he's a public figure. And if I was hearing from him over a period, and he was showing signs of remorse and doing things that would help other women who are victims, then today probably I would think differently. But for me, mitigation and change comes through a process.
I just want to add that we have to be clear about what we see happening. All of us have eyes to see. And as my colleague said, this is not a situation where the member he came out and apologized and reflected on his actions and took steps to actually mitigate. What we're seeing here is a sanitization of George Wright because of political power, or seeking in an effort to seek political power. The timing is wrong. All we have seen them do is say that we need this man back on board. And I question it, because is it that we cannot find suitable representatives to come out and serve the people? And so I believe that this is a slap in the face, and this is squarely about politics.
Testing. Oh, morning. Mahiri Stewart here from Nationwide News. So we've seen in the past where two PMP caretakers, at least they were caretakers at the time, had been charged for instances of assault. And the question is, in that instance back then, was it a case where they were removed as members of the PNP upon those charges, or?
My recollection, and certainly it is the process in which we are embarked, is that once there are those allegations, we have a conversation with the individuals. Yes? There are cases where they will explain. There are cases where they might want to say what happened, and that's not how they saw it. But our position has been very clear that abuse is not tolerated. That if you have that problem, go deal with yourself. Yeah. Go take the steps that are necessary, and you can't represent us under those circumstances. And you would have seen that in all of those cases, what has happened, either the person would say they're accusing themselves based on the position that we have made clear, or we have said we have parted ways. There's nothing unequivocal about our position as far as that is concerned.
Okay, and is she answering the? I guess another question I have is, in terms of putting things in place to ensure that there is zero tolerance for violence against women specifically, do you think it would be fair for some sort of legislation to be passed that if somebody that is accused or charged for an instance such as this removes themselves, whether it's as an MP, whether it's as a caretaker, whether it's as a councillor?
You know, I think both, right? I think we have said it in so many different ways that we need a kind of code of conduct that holds leaders responsible for the behavior, to the point where there are certain acts that invoke impeachment. And we have been clear about that. Mr. Golding has been very, very clear about that as well. And I think that where we are, something went to Parliament, a motion went to Parliament, it has been ignored. We will not ignore it.
Thank you very much for those questions. Let us be clear. While the JLP turns a blind eye to injustice, the PNP has taken action. 2 years ago, Mark Golding went beyond words. He drafted an impeachment bill, took it to Parliament, and delivered it to defend the women and people of this nation. This bill would have provided a mechanism to remove individuals like George Wright who violate the moral and ethical standards expected of our leaders. But the government, led by Andrew Michael Holness, refused to act. The government, the Speaker of the House, a female, Juliet Holness, refused to act. They ignored the opportunity to uphold integrity in public life. Now, as we undergo the constitutional reform, this is the moment for the government to show the people of Jamaica that it values you, and that it values accountability, that it values women, and that it values justice. Andrew Holness campaigned on it. He said that when he got in office, he will bring these measures to keep his people accountable. We're not making up a fairy tale for you today. We're going to play for you a short clip just to remind you about the character of the person on trial today before you, Mr. George Wright.
You're saying he's a person of interest.
Right.
So you're making appeals now for him to visit the police for further talks, interviews. What is the nature of the complaint that was received by the police? What was Mr. Wright saying?
Right. Along the roadway, crowd there. He was dreaded enough. And he was Jessica. He heard. It and she was that told to them the report.
Right. So he's in a sense, is he saying self-defense?
When he made the report, that he wasn't aware that the thing was being recorded or thought.
And what's happened since with your investigations?
Well, yeah, it's not returned to a statement. The lady gave a report, made a report at the Arthur police station. He has not returned to follow up by that.
And what have the police done?
The lady has been reaching out to her, but we're not on her.
Found her.
The Wright has been elusive. At this time, we have been just speaking to it, but not for our purposes. Just yet.
You're saying he's a person of interest.
Right.
So you're making appeals now for him to visit the police for further talks, interviews.
You heard it for yourself, Jamaica. Victim blaming. We are not just here to talk. We're here to act, and we've acted before. Mark Golding brought the bill, demand that the Prime Minister includes it in the constitutional reform. Keep following us on social media. On our Facebook pages at PNP Jamaica and at Mark Golding JA. We will not stop talking. We will not stop fighting. We will not be silenced. We are the women of the People's National Party. Have a good day.